Vincent Ambrosio was caught during the Hansen vs. Predator sting of Fairfield, Connecticut. He was 19 years old at the time, and believing that he had been talking with a 12-year-old girl, he drove about 65 miles to meet up with her. Over the course of this video, I'll be going over the chat log associated with this incident, his confrontation with Chris Hansen at the Sting House, and the police interview that followed. The commentary that I provide is for entertainment purposes, a way for me to share some thoughts and speculations based on this small window into Vincent's life. Be warned, the content of this video is verbally graphic, and viewer discretion is highly advised. As you're probably aware, I've been having a few issues regarding the chat log sections of these videos, and how YouTube friendly they may be. To ensure this video abides by community guidelines, I'll heavily summarize the chat log as best I can. With that out of the way, let's dive right in. At the very start of the chat log, Vincent learns that he's communicating with a 12-year-old. Without any hesitation, Vincent has no concerns about what he wants from this young person. He shares photos of himself and begins to probe around whether she likes older guys. He asks her for photos, and when she gives him some, he requests naughty photos, which of course he doesn't receive. After a bit of back and forth, the man gives up on attempting to bully her into sending him some questionable photos, and instead, he sends some of his own. Here's a little excerpt from my original video regarding this moment. And there we have it. The penis has landed. It's got to be some sort of predatory record, hey? 37 messages in, and the man's prized possession has popped its head in for a chat. I would like to point out that there was an uncensored version of this image as well, but I did decide to spare you those gory details. The gold star, although not placed over it by me, I do feel adds quite a nice touch to the image. It's like the sheriff's star stamping this as a verified problem, or even some of the wanted stars from Grand Theft Auto. Vincent's in big trouble here. The chat gets obnoxiously vile from this point on, as masturbation and sexual intercourse are discussed. The conversation is fairly vapid for the most part of these early stages, and it all centers around his attraction towards her. Compliments are thrown at the decoy, as though they're going out of fashion. After a fair amount of disturbing dialogue, surrounding things which I won't get into here, the two change from the app Whisper to Kick, and they continue conversing over there. Although they are on a new app, the conversation stays the same. As you can imagine, it's riddled with filth regarding bathing and ignored requests for more naughty photos. When the two depart for the night, we get a glimpse into how obsessive this man could be, as he bombards her with messages that go unanswered over the next 2 days. When she finally responds a few days later, stating that her phone bill was unpaid, things pick up right where they left off, with Vincent requesting photos of her, alongside a whole array of manipulative questions regarding whether she's masturbated yet. Nearing the end of this portion of the chat, there is a confusing moment that emerges. I'll play this section of the original video to give you an understanding of what occurs here. As you can see on screen right now, the conversation has ended, and the very next screenshot that I have to work with is Vincent in a group chat with the decoy and another girl that goes by the name of Hannah. There's no leading up to this. There's no explanation as to what's going on. Just a group chat that has somehow occurred. There's probably text messages missing that I don't have access to. So I'll be operating under the assumption that at some point during that day, Vincent asked the decoy to jump into this group chat with he and his friend Hannah. Later on I'll get into a theory of who I think Hannah is, but for right now, to simplify things, let's embrace this strange moment for exactly what it is. An odd occurrence. It would seem that Vincent and this 18-year-old Hannah person are already friends, and have previously been discussing the possibility of meeting up with the decoy. Throughout this group chat, things dance between pleasant and disturbing. As Hannah and the decoy go over their favorite animals, Vincent is much more focused on vaginas. When the group chat ends, the conversation between Vincent and the decoy proceeds as it has up to this point, disgustingly. They speak via text for the next few days leading up to the weekend. It's important to note that every attempt where Vincent tries to turn the conversation sexual, the decoy rejects it, and the entire log is a glimpse into an intense sexual and psychological bully, one who's forcing someone else to continuously respond to questions regarding a topic that she has no interest discussing. Here's an example of how that plays out. Did you try putting one inside of you? I don't want to do that, not to myself. Well, I'm going to do it to you. I'm also going to put my penis in there. But you're going to be gentle, right? Of course, princess. I want you to get a ruler and measure how long the slit is. Huh? Your vagina. I want to see how small it is. I am not doing that. Why? Just tell me. I don't mean put it in you. No, I'm not doing that. Why? I want to know how small it is. I might not fit if it is too small. I don't mean inside of you. On the outside. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do that. I'm happy to learn stuff, but not by myself. That isn't part of the learning. I want to make sure you aren't too small. So you're not coming if I'm too small? No, I am. But it just means I will need to buy lube if you are too small. Then you just buy it, because I'm not doing that with the ruler. Okay, well you tell me. Is it going to be too big? Hello? To send the chat log off, the pages center on some of the most atrocious filth I've ever read. I won't go into details here, but trust me, it's very nasty stuff. Throughout his groom of the decoy, we learn that Hannah from the group chat no longer speaks to Vincent, and this is upsetting to him. Potentially, she wasn't on board for a sexual liaison with a minor, hey? The imbecile goes into a downward spiral and becomes quite depressed. A behavior that the decoy doesn't really respond to in the way which I believe Vincent intended. Following a hefty amount of self-deprecating dialogue from the man, the log eventually ends up with Vincent asking for more photos from her, which of course, goes not responded to. He claims his love for the decoy, and expresses how excited he is to have sex with her. Following a bout of predator chatter that spans the course of a week, Vincent is on track to meet up with the decoy at the Sting House, and that pretty much sums it up for the chat log, hey? I'll go back to playing the video excerpt from my original work now.
Come on in. You found the house okay?
You're Jenna?
Yeah.
You look different than the pictures.
People always say that. I don't know why. Do you want a cupcake? I like your hat.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, alright, sorry.
We have all day. Sorry, I'm really nervous.
How you doing?
I'm okay.
I hate the cold.
I know. I forget how cold it gets every winter and then it hits and...
I'm moving south.
Where to?
I want to go towards like Texas, the desert.
Really? I've never been.
Me neither. But
So
I like the warmth.
that explains the cowboy hat.
Yeah, I like the warmth.
Yeah.
It gets too cold up here for me.
I don't know. I kinda
Mom
like-
wants to go to the beach.
So you're not a Four Seasons person?
Not really.
No.
I don't. I want to try Alaska. Me and my friend want to go try to live up there.
I heard it's beautiful up there.
Yeah, he likes the outdoorsy stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Would you make these?
I'm not that good.
I like to bake.
Yeah?
My heart's racing.
Mine is too. Do you want a water or anything?
No, I'm okay. Yeah, give me a cup of water.
I have bottles.
That's fine.
So what do you want to do? You want to just hang out here?
Yeah, you got a TV?
Mm-hmm.
Sit and watch TV?
Sure. Do you want to like watch a movie or
Yeah,
TV?
movies?
Mm-hmm.
What movies you got?
I mean, we can just get something on Netflix.
Sure.
Yeah.
Where's the TV?
It's in the other room. Here, you just hang out here for a sec. I'm gonna grab something.
Hey Tex, how you doing?
Quite a lot happened there in a very short space of time. Let's take it back and break it down. Before I talk about anything related to Vincent, if you're watching on screen, I'd really like to highlight the editing work of how the cameras switch between one another, especially around the moment where Vincent goes in for the hug. I'm going to count it out. You'll be able to keep track of the count at the top right of the screen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14,
Really?
15,
So that explains the cap.
16. The section of video goes for less than 2 minutes, with little to no movement between the subjects on screen, and the camera is like an unattended hose spraying water full stream. It whips from left to right with an unfocused, unpredictable blast to anyone who gets close. A display of furious visual symphony, leaving many to wonder, who on earth was in charge of this thing? 23,
Do you want a water or anything?
24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36,
I mean, we can just get something.
37,
It's in the other room. Here, you just hang out here.
and 38. 38 cuts in about a minute and a half. In my opinion, majority of those cuts are completely unnecessary, and they strike me as the person behind this mess as being an inexperienced, yet quite excited video editor. One who felt a little overwhelmed with how many camera angles they had to work with. And as they had to make the tough decisions of which ones to keep, they thought to themselves, I've got the perfect solution. I'll just show the viewer everything all at once. Either that, or they're purposefully trying to overwhelm the viewer's senses, with the goal in mind to make this scene look and feel much more frantic than it actually is. Choppy editing like this is designed to unsettle the viewer, and is most commonly seen in films with high action, horror, or confusion. So whether the person working on this footage or not was aware of that is anyone's guess. But I did want to point out how disrupting it is to watch, as Vincent is clearly experiencing feelings of anxiety and nervousness, yet that is being exacerbated by the energetic camera switching. As much as I enjoy complaining about poor editing, I highlighted all of that for a proper reason. This video has been released to the public as uncut, raw footage, yet as we can see, it most definitely is not, as it has had some degree of a heavy hand editing it. More than likely what I think's happened, now that I think about it, was that someone was working on this footage, but the decision was made to not air this episode, so they never had a chance to complete the final edit. Thus why we're watching such a mess. This also would make sense, because as I'll point out later in the video, there are moments where we'll see pieces of the interview stitched together quite poorly, things that don't line up. It may not seem that bad, right? But what this has the potential of doing is drastically changing the flow of how the interaction occurred between Chris and Vincent. Without the proper raw footage, we'll never be able to know how the true night's events unfolded. And I wanted you to keep that in mind as I speak about Vincent here, because I'll be doing so with a very conscious effort to not talk about how his movements, mood, or attitude shifts from one moment to the next. That flow could very well have been structured by the editor. Hey, Editing Dave speaking to you right now. Whilst I was editing this, I noticed in the background the top of a head which may very well belong to one Mr. Chris Hansen. Imagine spotting the slowly moving top of some random, looming person's head in a situation like this. It could be quite the heart thumper, hey? If Vincent were more of an observant character, I wonder how he might have reacted to it if he'd seen it, hey? Let's get this thing properly started now.
Come on in. You found the house okay?
You're Jenna?
Yeah.
You look different than the pictures.
People always say that. I don't know why.
Right off the bat, I'd say the decoy has quite an odd character on her hands. He's stiff like Lurch, and dressed like a ska musician crossed with a cowboy. Immediately suspicious that she may not be the person from the pictures. His persona seems as stiff as his physical presence. My opinion is that he's probably a very anxious and self-conscious person, one that is not accustomed to meeting new people often, especially under these circumstances. Paranoia is present as he's high on alert, and it manifests in this scarecrow-like creature who walks toward the kitchen. Immediately wanting to feel some level of comfort, he goes in for the hug, but alas, there is no relief to be found there. What's notable about this rejection is his response. Remember someone like Jeff Sokol, who also had the hug rejected. Jeff became clammy, self-conscious, and it was a grinding moment where the machine momentarily had to come to a halt. Vincent here is the opposite. He rolls with it. It doesn't seem to bother him in the same way. And this could be for a few reasons, of which many I could speculate for quite a while. But for the sake of timeliness, I put my eggs in the basket which says that in this moment leading up to trying to get the hug, he's probably already in a crisis state. So now this is just damage control on top of that. Nothing could make him feel more uncomfortable than he already does. So that rejection was but just another teardrop in the ocean of his discomfort.
I'm okay.
As he was removing his jacket, that sounded to me like he quietly says the words God with an exhale of breath, further adding to the image of how nervous he's feeling.
I hate the cold.
I know. Forget how cold it gets every winter and then it hits and...
I'm moving south.
I've seen Vincent cop quite a lot of flack regarding his choice of outfit. And I do understand why. Not so much because I think the outfit is ridiculous, but when one plans a date for sex with a 12-year-old, people are going to ridicule any little morsel of personality that they can find. When I see this outfit, what strikes me the most is the thought that this man has put some degree of effort into his appearance. We know he doesn't have a job, and he barely has any friends. He doesn't leave the house often, and spends a lot of his time looking after his grandfather, who also lives with him. Therefore, I can't see many scenarios where Vincent would need anything other than his pajamas throughout the day-to-day life, hey? He could have easily come dressed in his finest slobs, like so many other predators seem to do. So to see such coordination with his getup, I believe this meeting, be he gravitating toward it exclusively for sex or something more, it means a lot to him.
Where to?
I want to go towards like Texas, the desert.
Really? I've never been.
Me neither. But
So
I like the warmth.
that explains the cowboy hat.
Yeah, I like the warmth.
Yeah.
It gets too cold up here for me.
Conversing, he seems to be in a state of anxiety-induced focus. What I mean by that is he's responding quickly and communicating effectively, but it's devoid of the usual emotion one would expect from general human interaction. She has humorously pointed out that his aspirations for a move to Texas explain the cowboy hat, a moment of potential bonding as she highlights something about his appearance that they could use to laugh over. And she does this by using her tone to indicate affection rather than ridicule. He acknowledges what she has said, but not the emotion behind it, proceeding instead to deliver her a continuation of the narrative which he had started a few seconds prior. So I believe this to be anxiety-induced focus. He's very anxious, has a planned narrative running through his mind for this specific conversation, and he doesn't have much room to move around within that. Process the moment, construct the best course of action, follow it through as closely to the plan as possible, and then process the next moment and repeat.
I don't know. I kinda
Mom wants to go to the beach.
So you're not a Four Seasons person?
Not really.
No.
I don't. I want to try Alaska. Me and my friend want to go try to live up there.
I heard it's beautiful up there.
Yeah, he likes the outdoorsy stuff too.
Building on what I was speaking about a few moments ago, this is more behavior which indicates how uncomfortable he feels. If you noticed, he took a deep breath mid-sentence, and after I hit unpause, he will quickly shift to the conversation.
Would you make these?
I'm not that good.
I like to bake.
Yeah?
My heart's racing.
Mine's too. Do you want a water or anything?
No. Yeah, give me a couple more.
This is very nitpicky on my part, and I share this thought with the full acknowledgement that verbal communication is quite different for different people. It's not always a clear window into a bigger picture. With that being said, notice when she offers him water, he doesn't reply with a yes please or a yes thank you, maybe even a that sounds great. He says, yeah, get me a cup of water. To me, this says that there could be a chance that he's a little spoilt at home. We know he lives with his parents, and additional research has shown that both of them were present at his sentencing hearing, and they offered statements to try and convince the judge to give him a lighter sentence. They sound like very loving parents indeed. So not throwing any negativity towards parents who are doing their best to assist their beloved and only child, but it does open up the door for thought and speculation about how much they may baby him at home.
I have bottles. So what do you want to do? You want to just hang out here?
Yeah, you got a TV?
Mm-hmm.
Sit and watch TV?
Sure. Do you want to like watch a movie or
Yeah,
TV?
movies?
Mm-hmm.
What movies you got?
I mean, we can just get something on Netflix.
Sure.
Yeah.
Where's the TV?
It's in the other room. Here, you just hang out here for a sec. I'm gonna grab something.
Hey, Tex, how you doing?
Hanson really loves his zingers, hey?
How you doing?
Why don't you come over here and have a seat at the store, please?
Yeah, I kind of figured it.
Kind of figure about it. No. Let's come right over here, please.
Come.
Ah yes, of course. As you saw, the hat went back on, signaling that the men are about to discuss big boy business. I've got quite a few spots marked out for stops coming up, so I'm gonna let this play out for a little, then I'll be taking it back to around here for a breakdown.
What's going on?
How you doing?
I'm good. How are
I knew
you?
this was gonna happen.
You knew what was going to happen.
Somebody was gonna show up here.
Somebody was going to show up here.
It's alright. You know what? I have nothing to live for anyway.
Well, what do you mean you?
Life's a mess.
Why is it a mess?
I failed high school. I have no motivation to finish it. None of the pills about work.
What do you do for a living?
I don't have a job. I'm a fuck up.
Look, I can understand how tough that is on you. But why does that make it okay?
I wasn't gonna do anything.
But that's not what
She
you said.
said you. I know. I want to be a cop. I wasn't gonna do anything. I just want
You want to be a cop?
I want to have a friend.
Well, then why don't you go join the police academy or...
I'm fat. I can't do anything.
Look, I had a father who was overweight. I get it. It's tough.
Stupid.
But still, that doesn't make it okay. Thank you.
That's about far enough.
What's going on?
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I knew this was gonna happen.
You knew what was going to happen.
Somebody was gonna show up here.
Somebody was going to show up here.
It's alright. You know what? I have nothing to live for anyway.
Well, what do you mean you?
Life's a mess.
That was a rather quick transition from stable to unstable hay. Hard to say what's going on here. A defense mechanism possibly. He did mention that he was pretty certain someone was going to show up, so I wonder if these tears are rehearsed. On the bench, ready to go in case they were needed. Learned behavior that he's discovered has gotten him out of other problems in the past. Or is this what he is? On the edge of an emotional cliff at all times. His mental state, a bomb without a fuse. The slightest bump and it will erupt. Did he arrive at this house in a state of high anxiety, telling himself self-deprecating thoughts, as he found himself both excited and disappointed that these are the depths which he has sunk while on his quest for sexual connection? And now, having been sprung in the act, the flimsy barrier which held his tears at bay has burst.
Why is it a mess?
I failed high school. I have no motivation to finish it. None of the pills about work.
Once more, I am in two minds about what drives this emotion. I think everything he's saying here is honest. The failing of high school, his lack of motivation, and the pills not working. These things did occur, but whether he's drawing upon them for his performance, or the weight of these things has collapsed in on him, I wouldn't be able to say.
What do you do for a living?
I don't have a job. I'm a fuck up.
What isn't in dispute in my mind is the effect this is having on Chris. I would pin him to be quite the savvy man. He's seen a fair bit, spoken to quite a lot of predators. Yet this is the first time that I can recall where he's visibly showing signs of sympathy. There's been other young men that he's caught, that's for sure, and men that have brought along the tears, just like Vincent has here, but none have pierced the hard exterior of this predator hunter, quite like Vincent seems to have.
Look, I can understand how tough that is on you. But why does that make it okay?
I wasn't gonna do anything.
But that's not what
She
you said.
said I know. I want to be a cop. I wasn't gonna do anything. I just
You want to be a cop?
I want to have a friend.
Well, then why don't you go join the police academy or...
I'm fat. I can't do anything.
Ah yes, of course, I see. The problems he has with his weight have of course led him to molesting a 12-year-old. I should have been much more sensitive to that detail, hey? In all seriousness though, it's a terrible excuse. I do believe it's true. Larger individuals would have a more difficult time getting into law enforcement, but it's not an impossible task. And in my opinion, Vincent isn't even that large. I'm not saying it would be a walk in the park going from his body shape to that of a Greek god, but if he really wanted to be a cop bad enough, it would be possible to whip that rig into shape just enough so that he could pass the exams. I doubt it would be an easy journey, but dare I say it, it would be hell of a lot better an option than what he has chosen to do instead. If I am to be blunt in my speculation, I don't think the police force is much of a goal for him. I think it probably serves as a marker in his life, something to be able to tell himself and others that he aspires towards but can't attain, yet in reality he has no motivation to actually go for it, thus perpetuating this depressive cycle that he's in, which sees him feeling very sorry for himself. The man can't achieve the things that he wants, or at least that's what he's telling himself. I know I sound quite harsh talking about that, but I do think that it is absolutely a symptom of depression, and because of that, by no means am I calling him, or anyone else suffering in this way, lazy. It's more of an observation on my part about what I think he's going through right now.
Look, I had a father who was overweight. I get it.
Hansen outing his dad's weight like that would go on to be quite the beloved comment for the TCAP community, hey? I really don't mean to be insensitive. I know the situation at hand is quite serious, and the issue of weight is a struggle for many people. Often inside this struggle, the solution is not as simple as eating less and exercising more. But as you can see, I've put up on screen right now what actually tickles me about this situation. And that is how the TCAP community latch on to little phrases like Hansen's here, and then they run with it. Everybody's got a dad that's going through something, hey? So they understand the situation. They get it.
It's tough.
Stupid.
But still, that doesn't make it okay.
Was that terminal fear that I just saw wash over Hansen's face? If I am correct in that observation, not many predators have been able to instill such horror in our tenured predator catcher Hay. He knows Vincent has threatened suicide during the chat log, and he senses that the young man is mentally buckling right now. So when Vincent reached into his pocket to pull something out, I bet Hansen's heart skipped more than a few beats trying to kickstart that adrenaline response, hey. Just before I hit play again, I want you to pay attention to the editing coming up. For footage that is touted as unedited, something sure does seem strange here. Either Chris likes to start conversations mid-sentence, or this has definitely been edited.
It's okay to conduct yourself this way on social chat sites and talk to a girl who's 12 years old. What grade are you in? 7th. Cool, could I see a pic of you? You like older guys. You said all this, right?
Yeah.
I meant a naughty pic. You send a picture of yourself.
I know, don't remind me.
I'm not that big, but I could fit inside you.
If there were ever an image that was able to capture what sitting on the hot seat in front of Chris Hansen could feel like, I think this would be it, hey. Oh man.
Have you ever played with yourself? I mean, you see how this looks. How did you get to this place?
Which place? This is just me.
Good question from Chris, as it does open up the possibility that we might be able to hear more reasoning from the predator behind his actions. Vincent's response, though, is what most intrigues me. When asked how did he get to this place, he asks a question back to Chris. The question is this, whilst signalling toward the chat log, or me, which I assume he is referring to his mental state. By asking Chris this question, what I believe it's trying to do is to show Chris that although he is taking ownership of his actions, Vincent, at this point in time, is presenting the idea that he is not in a position to be able to experience any sort of backlash for those actions, all based on his crippled mental state. He is showing Hansen here that the real problem is not the attempted molestation and solicitation, but instead, his less than ideal life. This places a focus on his inner problems, as the two now likely will engage in a conversation about how to help him, how to keep his head above the water. Keep in mind, it's not too common for people to break down emotionally in front of others like this. So I do think that this is a learned behavior, defense mechanism sort of thing for Vincent. Doing this dance allows him an out from having to take heat for his actions. His emotional display here centers conversation around the bigger, more pressing problem which is presented to have caused this grown man to break down. If this is what is happening here, he's not looking for help with this outcry, and the resulting conversation will be one with no solution. What it will be instead, though, is communication wrought with frustration and circular dialogue. Dialogue that is intended to fill the other party with some of the hopelessness that he says he feels, and in doing so the attacker will either forget the original issue or let him off the hook based on the idea that he's already dealing with too much.
Look, everybody's got personal problems, right? But that doesn't mean it's okay to do this. You get that, right?
Yeah. Such an idiot.
How far did you drive today?
An hour and a half.
Hour and a half. And how many other times have you done this?
Never.
Well, that's hard for me to believe, Vincent.
She said she wanted a friend. I'm stupid.
And it's around this point of the video that I had begun to feel that whatever the emotion was blisteringly being portrayed, it had now begun to subside.
You get that, right?
Yeah. Such an idiot. An hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
Never.
Well, that's hard for me to believe, Vincent.
She said she wanted a friend. I'm stupid.
If it is subsiding like I'm picking up, this is a bit of a problem for Vincent, as the conversation was meant to center around the tragedy that is his life. But instead, Chris has very swiftly directed things back to the chat log and the predatory situation at hand, a far cry from where Vincent's trying to take it. As a result, to me, it looks like Vincent's response and tears at this point seem a bit forced, and the emotion that was present earlier is being desperately grasped at, like a person frantically stumbling about as their last piece of favourite candy has escaped their grip, and they now unwittingly juggle it about in a last-ditch effort to maintain control.
But there's no friends 19? 20?
I have one friend. He's always working. Nobody else. Look at where I dress and stuff. Everybody thinks I'm weird.
What I find weird is Vincent making a self-deprecating comment about how weird his attire is, yet choosing to wear this very attire to what he believed to be a date. I ask the question, why would that be? One can argue that he loves his outfit and experiences feelings of inner conflict as others tend to shy away from him because of it, or even ridicule him. Maybe that's why he chose this outfit for the evening. He loves it so much, and he wanted to see if she would be the one who gets the quirkiness behind it. Yet, on a more disturbing note, I imagine he possibly thought that because she's so young, she may not have a fully established idea of what is and isn't cool, and he would have either gotten a free pass on the getup, or even imprinted upon her his definition of what cool clothing is. Whatever the purpose of saying this was, what seems to be an emerging pattern is Vincent pointing towards some part of his image and portraying that as a reason for his life being such a mess. If this is a true reflection of his inner monologue on a day-to-day basis, then it can be viewed as signs of heavy depression. Each flaw that he finds with himself can end up becoming enormous and unavoidable daggers of uncomfortable inner voice, rather than what they actually are, which is surface-level problems. Problems that require achievable levels of alteration in his lifestyle for them to resolve quickly and effectively.
Well, the only weird thing I see is that you're trying to hook up with a 12-year-old girl named Jenna Claire. I I mean, have you tried to get some help?
With this stuff?
Yeah.
No, I never told anybody anything.
And right there, we have confirmation that he is fully aware he has a problem with attraction to minors.
How often do you go on the internet
To do that, but
to do this stuff?
Not with girls, not little girls.
Well, what made you do it this time? I mean, just help me to understand what's going on in your mind.
I don't know. That's the problem.
Well, you gotta know, Vincent. You're an adult now.
I do appreciate the gentler tone Chris has taken with this interview. Maybe age has weathered the fiery storm within his soul. Maybe today he was merely tired. Or maybe there's something about this young man's tears that have resonated. Whatever the reason may be, he's coming across as compassionate, yet professionally firm. Sounds like something I should write in my About Me section for online dating, hey? Compassionate, yet professionally firm. Spicy stuff indeed. Hey, this is Editing Dave speaking to you again. Recording Booth Dave is a bit of a cheeky one, isn't he? That line about online dating definitely wasn't in the script, hey? Anyway, the reason I actually thought I'd butt my head in here is because it would seem that the editing fairy is up to her old tricks again. Looking at this freeze frame, I wanted to direct your attention toward Vincent's right arm. When I hit unpause, notice it will be in a different location.
You get this as a felony, right?
For uncut footage, that was some pretty quick arm movements on our predator's part, hey? I do know I'm being a bit of a pain about these things, but really, there could be a ton of dialogue missing there in that little gap, hey?
What are you gonna do about this situation? I mean, you gotta pull it together. Where'd you go to school?
Ketchum.
Where?
Ketchum and Wappingers.
Ketchum and Wappingers Falls.
Yeah.
Did you finish?
I failed English, participation in government, economics. I'm supposed to be doing them online. I don't have any motivation to do anything.
Well, what happened to your motivation?
Just this depression is so crippling.
Coming up, Chris and Vincent will dive pretty heavily into the depression that Vincent faces. But before I begin my commentary on this section and this subject, I feel it important to say that a young man at the age of 19 is more than likely not going to be at a point where they can effectively manage depression should they have it. That fact isn't lost on me. And despite the many unpleasant qualities he exudes, I don't think his journey through life has been a particularly easy one. I will give him that.
Did you go see somebody, a doctor?
I'm seeing it. What is he? I think he's like a nurse practitioner, kind of. He prescribes my medicine, and I'm not a big talker about my feelings, so he talks to me about it. When I go, he prolongs the appointment for me.
So you've been diagnosed with depression?
Bipolar depression.
Bipolar. It's a tough disease. What do you take for it?
I'm on the Lexapro, gabapentin, and Adderall. It's supposed to give me energy to want to do things, but...
He's really in the zone on this one. It's probably one of the main elements of his life that control his thoughts, the spinning hamster wheel of prescriptions and difficult diagnosis. There's much debate about how effective prescription medication can be, with both sides of the argument I've heard having compelling points. What is not in dispute, though, is the utter hell it can put people through as they bounce back and forth between meds, doctors, stabilizers and frustration. I do believe what Vincent has said here, which means that the doctor has him on some pretty hefty stuff. Medications that are described to treat major depressive disorders, along with strong anti-seizure meds that have been found to calm anxiety, followed up with Adderall for energy. It's quite the cocktail, and Vincent sounds like he's well and truly in the prescription medication system. None of that is intended to excuse his behavior either. There's plenty of people out there suffering the same and worse, and they steer well clear of 12-year-olds, hey.
I had fucked that up. I didn't realize what it...
I mean, you don't seem like a dumb guy, Vincent.
He gave me 10 milligram tablets to start with 10 twice a day. He says that doesn't work. Bump it up a dose to two 10s, so 20 twice a day. I bumped it up to 30. He refilled the prescription. I didn't realize he refilled the prescription. That's why I said in the last message before I came, I have aches and stuff. It's because I didn't realize when he refilled it, he bumped it up to 30 tablets. So I could take just one tablet in the morning and one at 12 o'clock noon. I was taking 330, so I was taking 180 a day.
On one of the forums discussing Vincent here, I found this comment from a person. They would say, quote, "He was absolutely full of shit when he talks about his Adderall prescription. Point 1. His math is off. 3 30-milligram pills would be 90 milligrams total, not 120 milligrams like he claims." I do believe the commenter might have actually meant to say 180 milligrams, as that's what Vincent claims to have been taking. Point 2. It's a controlled substance, so there's no way his doctor changed the pill dosage without giving him explicit instructions to only take 1 pill per day rather than 3. Point 3. The medication bottle would also have the dosage and instructions clearly listed. Point 4. It's not his insurance's fault that he can't get the script refilled after going through the whole bottle in a matter of days. It's federal law. I'd bet big money he was abusing the Adderall. End quote. The part referring to his insurance is coming up in a few seconds, so you'll get to see what that's all about. Overall, though, I am very inclined to agree with this comment.
That's a lot of Adderall. What did that do to you?
I was so antsy. I was angry at my dad. I was angry at everybody. I picked my fingernails to nothing. I've had withdrawal there for the last couple of days because he can't refill it because it's not October, and now the fucking insurance company doesn't want to refill 30 twice a day extended release because they say it's too high of a dose. But I'm fat, so the 30 didn't bother me.
Did you ever try to diet?
I've actually, with the Adderall, I lost weight. I lost about 20 pounds, and I've lost 40 pounds since January.
That's pretty good.
Hanson's commenting on the weight loss makes me chuckle, hey. He's not that cranky predator hunter, but a soulful friend. Also, are there any Avatar fans here? The cartoon series, not the movie. In the cartoon, there's this scene where one of the main characters gets thrown around by an evil pirate, and the pirate's buddy who is watching on happens to compliment his comrade's bullying skills. I'll show you.
That's good.
Lost 40 pounds since January.
That's pretty good. It seems like in that respect you were heading in the right direction, but here you headed in the wrong direction.
Also, I see that cheeky head bobbling around behind the curtains back there. Easy back there, boys. The boss isn't finished with his questions.
How are you going to get back on track here?
He says he wants to try now a month with this Adderall to see if it works. I just want to get shock therapy.
At first, I thought his comment about wanting shock therapy was a half-baked attempt at humour. That was until I looked around online and found out that this is actually a legitimate form of treatment, electroconvulsive therapy. I had no idea, hey. If you're anything like me, here's some info that I found out about it. ECT is often misunderstood and incorrectly portrayed by popular media as a harsh, cruel treatment. In reality, it is a painless medical procedure performed under general anesthesia that is considered one of the most effective treatments for severe depression. It can be life-saving. ECT works quickly, which is why it's often the treatment of choice for people with highly severe, psychotic, or suicidal depression. For these people, waiting for antidepressants or therapy to work might be dangerous. However, the drawback is that the effects of ECT usually don't last, and further treatments will likely be necessary. With ECT, an electrical stimulation is delivered to the brain and it causes a seizure. Yet for reasons that doctors don't completely understand, this seizure helps relieve the symptoms of depression. How about that, hey? Learn something new in the strangest places.
It's that bad.
I sat on the floor and I cried the other night to my mom. I said, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I don't want to get up. I don't want to get out of the bed.
What did she say to you?
She cries. She feels horrible for me.
And you live at home?
And I do take care of my grandfather.
Yeah.
He has Parkinson's.
How is he doing?
As best as he's gonna get. He's gotten worse.
I'm glad Hansen is switched on, because the way he acknowledges the emotional dumping ground before him, takes a deep breath, and then moves forward with the task at hand is admirable. As you saw before, I have a couple of stops coming up over the next few minutes, so I'll let it play out and then bring it back to here.
Listen, I can empathize with all of that, except this. I mean, it's pretty graphic, right? You know better, Vincent.
I'm an idiot.
I mean, you shouldn't be
Just
sending
another
pictures
thing,
of your
Liz.
genitals to a 12-year-old girl, right?
I fucked up again. There's nothing else I can say, but I fucked up again.
Well, how else have you effed up?
Oh, school, my life, everything.
Do you have any hobbies?
Not really. I like driving and I like smoking cigars, but I can't do that for the rest of my life.
Why?
Because I need to get a job and I need to get structure in my life, and
Where are you going to go from here? This is not a good day for you.
what else is new? It's never a good day.
When did this start for you? When did it get off the tracks for you?
The depression?
Yeah.
It's like since I'm 12, 13, I think it started. I've been through 4 or 5 doctors. Millions of different pill combinations. That's why I wanted shock therapy. I posted on the Whisper app last week because I've been feeling like having the withdrawal and stuff. I said I just want to kill myself, and the nurse from I guess she's in England, she said that there's a shock therapy, and I looked it up and I told my doctor about it, but he doesn't want to do it and he wants to wait and see if the pills work. I'm tired of seeing if the pills work.
Okay. Well, what you did here is hard to excuse, Vincent.
I think that's a pretty good point to stop and go back.
Listen, I can empathize with all of that, except this. I mean, it's pretty graphic, right? You know better, Vincent.
I'm an idiot.
Vincent seems to be calming down leading into this, all up until Chris redirects the conversation back to the chat log. This gives me the impression that our predator possibly may have thought this thing was wrapping up. He's on the ground, beaten and limp. Surely Hansen couldn't want more, right? But oh, he does. And here he comes back around for another bite. Check out Chris's face when he does so too. The man means business. Chris's eyes burrow into the soul, whilst his words are wrapped with a disappointed fatherly tone. Vincent, realizing that he's far from out of the woods, looks as though he's trying to turn the waterworks back on.
I mean, you shouldn't be sending pictures of your genitals to a 12-year-old girl, right?
I fucked up again. There's nothing else I can say, but I fucked up again.
Well, how else have you effed up?
By saying he fucked up again, it softens the blow of what's occurring here. In a similar fashion to what we saw earlier in the interaction, the moment where Vincent was asked how did he get to this place in his life. So by saying he fucked up again, the word again puts this mishap alongside many other things that he has supposedly gotten wrong in the past. And in doing so it implies that at least in Vincent's mind, things are such a mess for him, he is unable to distinguish between the many problems that plague him. He's lumped this thing into the bucket full of all of the other things that are troubles for him. And this could lead one to question whether he is fully aware of what he is doing in this or any other given situation. Chris doesn't miss a beat either. Instead of taking what Vincent says on face value, he digs in and asks, "Well, tell me then, what other things have you fucked up?" A response like this works on many levels. Chris might uncover information of other people Vincent has potentially harmed, or he may surface a lie and realize that there really isn't many other problems as big as this one. At the very least, he's going to get more of a peek at how Vincent's mind operates under pressure.
Oh, school, my life, everything.
And so the bluff has been called. Vincent is unable to provide a solid answer to a direct question. His depressive musing that he fucked up again would seem to be nothing more than empty words.
Do you have any hobbies?
Not really. I like driving and I like smoking cigars, but I can't do that for the rest of my life.
Why?
Did Chris really just ask why can't you drive and smoke cigars for the rest of your life? My friend Chris Hansen, hey, revealing a side of himself that has never before been seen. The side that lets his hair down on the weekend, hits the road and burns through a couple of cigars. All jokes aside, Vincent probably could do that for the rest of his life, hey? I mean, why doesn't he start up a YouTube channel? Call it The Traveling Cigar. Or Cigar Therapy. I don't know. Maybe even something like Cigar Vince. Anyway, it's not my job to come up with a YouTube name for him. Once he gets that in order, he just hits the road, straps a couple of decent cameras on with a few different angles both in and out of the car, and he can cruise around to different scenic locations, blasting cigars along the way. Throw in a nice microphone there to pick up the hum of the engine or the gentle crash of a distant waterfall when he stops for a cigar break. No dialogue, no ego, just a couple of carefree moments on the road. Peaceful, gentle, with a cigar in hand and a comforting vibe at heart. Hell, I would watch that channel, hey. It sounds like bliss, like hanging out with a buddy who enjoys silence and reflection. Maybe I'll start it up. It really sounds good.
Then I need to get a job and I need to get structure in my life. And
Where do you got to go from here? This is not a good day for you.
what else is new? It's never a good day.
He's really using that technique quite a lot, directing Chris now to look at the entire knot of chords that is his life, rather than this specific cable, which seems to be the latest addition.
When did this start for you? When did it get off the tracks for you?
The depression?
Yeah.
It's like since I'm 12, 13, I think it started. I've been through 4 or 5 doctors.
I stopped to point out another bad edit, hey. Notice this frame right now. There's no water bottle in front of his face. Then magically, over on the next frame, a water bottle appears. How much did we miss in there?
Millions of different pill combinations. That's why I wanted shock therapy. I had posted on the Whisper app last week because I've been feeling like having the withdrawal and stuff. I said I just want to kill myself, and the nurse from I guess she's in England, she said that there's a shock therapy, and I looked it up and I told my doctor about it, but he doesn't want to do it and he wants to wait and see if the pills work. I'm tired of seeing if the pills work.
Okay.
Quite the deep sigh from Chris there. He knows what lies directly ahead for Vincent, and for the first time that I've witnessed, he doesn't seem particularly confident on whether it should or shouldn't happen.
Well, what you did here is hard to excuse, Vincent. But I hope you get help with all your other stuff.
Just want to die. My life is miserable.
Vincent bringing out the big guns there, hey. When all else fails, throw some wanting to die into the mix. It'll usually turn a few heads, you know, grab a bit of attention, and get onlookers to take one more seriously.
Well, nobody wants you to die. All right, listen to me. Vincent, there's some people over there who are going to get you on the next step to get better, okay? Okay? I take no glee in any of this, by the way.
Huh?
I take no glee in any of this.
I'm sure.
I got 2 boys, you know.
I would say that this is a pretty good sign as to why Chris has been so gentle with Vincent. For whatever reason, the young man in front of him has made him think of his own sons. An interview with Hansen, conducted in 2017, shortly after this sting, would see him say this, quote, "It was tough. He was obviously depressed. He mentioned suicide. I go from solid, questioning journalist to thinking, hey, I've got my own 22 and 25-year-olds. I've got to handle this differently." End quote.
So man to man, will you look at me for a minute? Will you promise to get some help? Please? This too shall pass. But you gotta get help, okay? Do you promise me?
I wish I just had a heart attack, but I was overdosing on the Adderall.
Look at me. Look at me. Do you promise me you will get help?
Yes, I don't want to be like this
Okay.
anymore with this, any of this.
Okay, so can we make this a turning point for you?
Yes.
As dark as this looks right now. Okay. But there's no way to go but up from here. Now, go easy. Go easy. So you will get help. All right. Will you do me a favor? Will you leave the knife right here. Take your hat and glasses. And then once you head right out this way, it's
Wear my coat.
I must say, those last few moments there were quite touching on Chris's part, Whether what he said sunk in at all or not is a different story, but I do admire the way Chris chose to handle that moment. Of course, he may have had a softer tone there because he knew the cameras were rolling, but a part of me would like to believe that he really did have a soft spot for this predator. Not for the predator's sake, but more for Chris's image. It's nice to get a glimpse of people's robust emotional depth. In line with this delicate handling of the situation, I don't think Chris was going to do his big reveal, the moment where he drops his name and title, along with the camera crew rolling out like a bunch of clowns getting out of a tiny car. But despite that, the crew, or possibly even the producer running this whole thing, do seem to be itching to get out there, and in a few short seconds they will make an appearance. Yet for the first time I can recall, this happens not on Chris's command.
I'll get the call. Okay. I'll get the call.
Oh, God.
And that's Vincent Ambrosio, hey? That ending, as somber as the moment was, really got my belly tickled. I probably shouldn't laugh, but I mean, Vincent has just spent the last 15 odd minutes talking about how horrible and bad his life is. And then these guys roll out with their cameras, like some sort of ghastly episode of Punk'd. It was completely unnecessary and overkill if you ask me. But hey, that's what this program has always been, right? From the ghillie suits tackling people in the front yard, to progressively more and more decoy interaction. This is just the way it is, I suppose. And in this instance, it's so tragic, it has to be comedy. Before I really dive into my thoughts here though, we do have some footage here from his police interview, and I'll go through some of it now. As the police interview starts, I'll do my best to narrate as much of it as I can, as the audio is pretty terrible quality, and you all know how I feel about subtitling things, hey? It's hard yakka. Anyway, Vincent tells the detective much of the same from what we saw in the Hansen interview. He says his life's a mess. He's dealing with bipolar depression and difficulty with his meds, and he's pretty honest about who he was speaking to, acknowledging that she was 12 and that he sent graphic photos to her, along with admitting that he was the one who initiated sexual dialogue for no other reason than the simple fact that he was, in his own words, just horny. When asked if the plan was to have sex, he characterizes the situation in such a way that originally, yes, the plan was to do that, but over time he backed off, and she was the one that continued to pressure him, as he says that she believed she was old enough to do it. Through teary eyes, he admits to making up a lie earlier in the day, apparently telling the decoy that his grandfather went to hospital so he might not make it over. He says that he told her this lie because he didn't want to come to the house, but she pushed him, and she told him that she didn't want to be alone. A distressed Vincent says to the detective that he's just the kind of guy that was trying to be friendly, and he didn't want to do anything to her. Vincent explains to the detective that he engaged in this conversation to take his mind off of the depression, and that he needed a distraction from all of the troubles in his life. He explains that even though originally he wanted to have sex with the decoy, he very quickly stopped when he realized how inappropriate it is. He follows this thought directly up with a spiel on parts of the decoy that he connected with. He says that her looking after her pets reminded him of how he looks after his grandfather. This I find to be of interest, because it could work to show how his mind was operating through the process of the grooming. Minor, key points of connection that are barely there, yet they're big things in his mind, allowing him to become anchored to her, attached to the minor, and unable to let her go.
So was this just kind of like a fun distraction for you?
Yeah, pretty much. Just trying to get my mind off of my depression and all my faults in my life.
Does sex do that for you? Get your mind off of your troubles?
Just jerk off all the time if I feel stressed.
Yeah.
Stress earlier. I feel awkward talking to you about that. Sorry.
What was in your mind coming there?
Just-
What was your...
I know I'm a virgin sex. Just
You've never had sex before? You've ever had any kind of penetration with a girl?
no,
Oral sex?
no.
You watch it, you knew what to do, like watching porn,
Yeah.
or you wanted to experience it?
Mm-hmm.
Learning about his lack of connection with women really doesn't surprise me. He strikes me as someone who has no experience with emotional, romantic connection that has been shared with another human. Lacking this, and deriving all of his sexual knowledge from the ever-wise teacher that is pornography, It makes sense that he would assume women are some sex-obsessed servant dolls. Dolls designed to please the male population. Before I hit play again, the spot where we're going to pick up, the detective has just read some of the more graphic sections of the chat log back to him.
Do you understand the damage of just saying something like that to a 12-year-old?
Obviously.
Yeah, and like sending a dick picture to a 12, like it may be the first time they've ever seen a penis. So like you've changed their world forever from sending that. So that's, did you know that ahead of time?
I guess, yeah, the back of my mind I did.
It would not surprise me to learn that he's agreeing here just so that he doesn't seem like an imbecile with testicles where his brain should be.
Were you looking for a little bit of shock value there? Were you looking to kind of shock her? Or?
No, I just, like I said, I was horny, but when I get horny, I don't really think straight. As you can see, kind of the text changed a little bit. I don't know if you read them all.
Yeah.
Like from one second I'm okay, and 1 second I'm talking about it, I kind of just move away from it because I relieve myself.
Have you ever met someone else that you met on a social media? Have you ever met them in real life other than today?
I met a guy.
You did?
Yeah, I won't really say that, but
Okay. Like I said,
I
everyone has.
experimented with him.
You did what?
I experimented with him.
Okay. So did you have intercourse with him?
Yeah,
And how old was he?
18.
You know for sure?
No,
Where did you meet him?
on Whisper.
What was
Because
his...
I had posted I wanted to lose my virginity and just get over it because I'm 19 and I feel ridiculous.
You posted on there. How long ago did you post
That
that?
was months ago.
This boy, the 18-year-old that you had sex with,
I don't talk to people anymore.
okay. What was his username or whatever on this part?
I don't remember.
How long ago was that?
August, June, July, I think it was.
And where did you guys meet?
At my grandfather's house because nobody was there.
And were you penetrated or was he? Or both?
Both.
So you have
Mostly,
sex.
I guess, yeah, technically.
Quite the plot twist, hey? Our friend Vincent isn't the virgin who he makes himself out to be. I wonder if he struggles with his sexuality. I wonder if he enjoyed this experience, or is it something that he wishes to forget? I wonder how much of a driving force he was in that experience. Did he push for it, or did the other young man push for it? And why do they no longer talk? Is he lying about both parties being penetrated? And if he is it to cover up feelings of unease surrounding what happened to him during that time? Was it easy for him to schedule sex with this person? So easy, in fact, it led him to think that it's probably this easy with anyone, thus fueling his confidence to target the decoy. There's a lot of unanswered questions floating around Hay, and I'm telling you now, we don't get the answers.
Is there anything on your phone that we're going to find? Because we are going to do a search warrant for your phone.
Yeah, there was a link in my notes with stuff with young girls,
What kind of stuff with young girls?
videos.
Okay. Where did you get those?
Somebody sent them to me from Whisper.
From where?
Whisper.
And they look like girls under 16
Yeah,
having intercourse?
yeah. I recently got it.
How many videos?
I don't know. It's something I think people just keep adding videos to.
And there it is. Any and all sympathy I may have had for this imbecile has been utterly trashed, destroyed, and obliterated. I can understand a young man lost to depression, one who's looking for an answer to his problems, seeking emotional connection in places he shouldn't. I can also understand that a drug-addled mind doesn't make wise choices. So within all of that, I can sympathize with his feelings of loneliness, isolation, and hopelessness. But not this. Here, he admitted to harboring a selection of videos depicting acts that I don't care to think or talk about in detail. It's utterly disgusting and blood-boiling. The sheer lack of any form of humanity that one must have to watch content like that, to store it for later use, for days, weeks, months. Who knows how long he's been doing this? It's absolutely despicable. There comes a line where one can no longer blame their god-awful behavior on substance or circumstance. Many might argue that he crossed it long ago, and I wouldn't try to change that opinion. But right here, there's no turning back for me. Watching videos like the ones he does, is just as bad in my mind as the people who make them. It's people like Vincent that keep this utterly vile stain upon the human race growing, and there will be, not now or in the future, any more sympathy from me. I was 19 once upon a time, and suffering from severe depression myself, and not once can I say that my thoughts ever turned towards harming children, or being interested in seeing them being harmed. And I'm certain many of you watching right now can say the same thing. Now, because such a putrid act is so far from anything that I'll ever understand, that act being confirmation that this creature pleased himself whilst watching suffering, it does lead me to lose what little compassion I may have wasted on him in the first place. I may seem uncharacteristically upset, and that's because I am. In a lot of these predator commentaries, no children that I know of get hurt, only the predator really, and probably the decoy's mental state to some degree or another. So because of that, it's easy for me to separate myself from the gravity of the crimes being committed, as they are all attempted crimes. But here we have it, without question, confirmation that there is pain and suffering of an innocent person, and Vincent pleasuring himself to that. I am absolutely upset by this. There are no jokes to be poking around here. As the interview comes to a close, Vincent decides again to do a hefty amount of victim blaming. Through this, we learn that he's been talking to another 14-year-old girl, one that he mentions if the detective checks their conversations, she won't find anything out of the ordinary. Well, maybe she might find one thing that's a bit eyebrow-raising. I'll show you what I mean.
I said I felt like I fell in love. I constantly say that if you look, I just feel so lonely when somebody's so kind to me.
Yeah.
A little further on, Vincent begins to wish he would have had a heart attack, and the detective goes down a line of questioning related to potential self-harm.
Have you ever tried to hurt yourself?
Yeah, once I had taken 20 of Dad's oxycodone.
When was that?
That was a year ago. About a year ago.
You took 20 of your dad's oxycodons on purpose?
Mhm.
And then what happened?
I slept for 3 days.
And then they want to check on you? And they
Oh yeah, I woke up and talked to Mom, I rolled back over and went back to sleep. That's all it did to me.
Okay.
Just made me tired. I thought maybe it'd kill me.
Anthony Tote, anyone? There's some real odd similarities there with their failed attempts to end it all, hey? The interview is almost over, and Vincent is circling the drain, as we've seen numerous times now, and then that's pretty much it. So with all of that out of the way, where were we? Ah yes, of course. So that's Vincent Ambrosio, hey? What a truly tragic young man indeed. Thinking about his situation realistically, I would say he's probably been attracted to minors for a very long time, and pursuing them online for just as long. Maybe not as aggressively as we saw in this scenario. Maybe that took time for him to work up to this. Or maybe it could be explained by that hefty intake of Adderall, hey? Either way, people don't just wake up one day and magically find themselves equipped to groom. It develops over time as they slowly test the murky waters of uncomfortable desire. The idea that Vincent is a poor 19-year-old vulnerable boy is not working on me. Yes, I agree he is a sorry soul, with probably not the greatest life, and that did warrant some level of sympathy, or maybe I should say pity, but at the young age of 19, not only does he have his dark cloud of tragedy hovering over him, it is being used as a smokescreen to mask what occurs inside there. He was a dangerous child predator in the making, and had he not been caught here, who knows what sort of damage this man may have caused. A preferential abuser, I have no doubts about it, but also based on his young age, a potential candidate for rehabilitation, should he get the correct treatment, therapy and support. Much of this interview, I was in two minds about the difficulties of his life. On one hand, I do understand that severe depression can make little problems seem much greater than what they are, and to the untrained eye, a depressed individual can look simply lazy, disinterested, and rather frustrating. Yet on the other hand, I couldn't shake this feeling that all we were witnessing was manipulation. A man who is absolutely lazy, and has figured out loopholes so that he can maximize on that. If this is what's happening, and I know that is heavy speculation, but if it is what's happening, it's people like Vincent that make depression much more difficult for people who are actually in the thick of it. For every individual that uses mental illness to avoid responsibility, There's someone out there who's genuinely suffering, and people that fake it give everyone else a bad name. It's a hard opinion to swallow, even for myself writing this. There's that part of me that wants to say, hey, stop. You gotta believe everyone who's diagnosed. You've gotta believe that he's struggling. Life is difficult for everyone in different ways, so don't comment on that. Just let it go. But really, in this instance, I can't. Vincent has really got my underwear in a twist, and it's because he seemed damn motivated to molest a child, to watch horrible videos of abuse. If someone can put the effort into getting all dressed up, into driving 60 miles, into having these conversations, energy-expending conversations with multiple people online, then that person, sure as hell, can put some effort into bettering themselves in some wholesome ways, hey? He didn't mention once to Hansen or the detectives about his deceased friend, whom he told the decoy about, and something doesn't sit right with me on that one. I think, at least at this point in time, he's a pretty big liar. He even admitted to lying to the decoy a few times to the detective, so I'm having a lot of trouble lowering my eyebrow in relation to his claims of mental illness and how much that plays into his actions that led him to this day. Now, in saying that, Vincent's going to be around for a while. I think he's probably in his mid-20s right now, which means he does have a lot of life to live. And from the bottom of my heart, I truly hope he has managed to get the help he needs, as Hansen suggested. This guy could be a right danger if not. And so I sincerely hope that for his sake, yet more importantly, for the sake of any children that could cross his path, I hope he's doing better, getting help, holding down a job, maybe even out there somewhere, driving around with a cigar in his mouth, on a wholesome journey of self-reflection and G-rated good times. Horrible decisions can define us, but they don't have to. He'll never be able to shake this dark stain from his life, but he sure as hell can grow from it. If he is preferentially attracted to minors, I hope he's aware of that, and aware of how damaging it can be should he give into it. So now, like I said, I truly hope he's doing his best to lead a wholesome and healthy life.
Alright, get some help, alright?
Which way? The garage?
Straight through, yeah.
Check out how gentle law enforcement is with him, hey? Gone are those brutal days of TCAP, when it was in its prime. Cops chasing predators down with tasers, bloodied faces and scraped up elbows. It's pleasant to see this change, but hey, part of me did love that chaos back then. After the sting, Vincent got a 10-year suspended sentence, of which he served 16 months, and must register as a sex offender. Included in that sentence, oh, check out those boots. Spicy stuff, Mr. Vincent. Spicy indeed. Included in that sentence was his possession of the underage illicit videos on his phone. When he was first in custody, he actually didn't contact his parents. So to the best of their knowledge, he had gone missing for 2 days. During this time, his father had somehow gotten hold of the decoy's phone number and made a phone call to her. It's quite an odd call, and I'll leave a link to it in the description of this video. But pretty much what happens is he tells her that he's the police, and he questions her over and over as to who she is. Speaking of his father, he actually caused quite a disturbance in the TCAP community, with Hansen saying on his podcast that the man harassed Joey TCAP so severely, Joey would fake his own death to shake him off. If anyone doesn't know, Joey TCAP is one of the most important members of the TCAP community. When Vincent was released, he was said to be living in a halfway home, and that's about all I know about him. I couldn't find any more info other than a 2019 resume unearthed by a YouTube channel called Skip Tracer. I'll put the link in the description. And so as you heard me say before, let's just hope he's staying out of trouble, hey? Thanks for making it to the end here. I hope you're having a good one as you listen to this, and I shall catch you next time. Take it easy.